All right, welcome, Clyde. Can you hear me? Welcome,
Hello.
Clyde. Hi, I'm going to drop
Hello.
out
Can you hear me?
and yes, and let you introduce yourself and then introduce your panel, and I'll bring on Diane.
All right.
So,
Hi.
all right.
Hi. I am Clyde Hall, and welcome to the Q&A panel with special guest Diane Sherry Case, part of the virtual celebration. Diane Sherry Case. She has had a long and varied career in the arts. She started as a child actor. She is known for her role as Lana Lang, the first superhero's first girlfriend in Superman, the motion picture, the movie. But Diane has her own superpower. She's also a word wizard. She has been an author. She has written short stories and 2 novels, at least, and an award-winning filmmaker. So she has worn many hats. She is a dyed-in-the-wool creative, and we are honored to have her here with us today.
Oh, thank you, Clyde. And the Actors Fund, I just want to pitch for them because that's a great, great organization. My mother's just now looking to go into the Actors Fund home. They have a home for a memory care facility. So I just, yay, guys, for raising money for them.
Yes. Well, and, think of all the times in the last year when the work of a writer or an artist or somebody sometimes just throwing out their work when their venues shut down, and they put their work free online to help boost morale and get people through our pandemic situations. It's the least we can do to pay something back and to say thank you.
Very nice.
All right. Okay, so let's get into this. You did a lot of acting work before being Lana. You were in some films such as Pretty Maids All in a Row with a lot of veteran actors. You did a lot of television and commercials, and one of the ones that caught my attention, you were a daughter to Bing Crosby in the Bing Crosby Show. Do you have some recollections? This is for as young as you were at the time, that's a very prestigious sort of role. So how did that work out for you?
It's amazing. And I'm still really proud that I sang with Bing Crosby. I mean, he sang back. I've got little videos of him singing backup vocals to me, which is just precious, and a little 12-year-old. But he was precious. He was really, he knew I was a big fan of the Beatles. So he once created a newspaper, a fake newspaper with him with a Beatle wig on it, so that I would know who he was.
Right,
so
right.
Trying to get in my good side by being a Beatle. And he got me invitations to see them at the Hollywood Bowl. And then he got me an invite to meet them and sent a letter to them. And they were big fans of Bing Crosby. So that was really nice to be able to deliver that letter. And I still have pictures of me with each Beatle. I mean, this is that.
Nice. Yeah.
That's my Beatles fame.
Okay. Any Beatle moments you want to share? Any anecdotes of actually getting to meet Paul?
Paul was with Jane Asher, who had long red hair at the time, and he said, "Oh, you have hair just like my girlfriend's." And that was very exciting to me. But kids were picking up cigarette butts that they had smoked. I mean, that's how.
Well, it was a revolution. I mean, when they said they took America by storm, they were not kidding, right? I mean,
well, yeah. I mean, pop music, rock and roll as we know it. I don't know. That whole generation of guys in the 50s and 60s, they all played guitar practically because of the Beatles. Everybody plays Blackbird,
Yeah. Yes.
And my ex-husband I'm sure it was the Beatles that partly influenced him to become a musician.
Right, right. So you have said in other interviews that you were a writer first, and then you decided to get into acting. And part of this was because, if I have read correctly, you were born in Missouri in the South, and then because of your dad's career change, you moved to Los Angeles. Is that right?
Yeah, we moved. Actually, my mother wanted to be a movie star.
Oh,
And my
okay.
father got a good job at Price Waterhouse. He was an accountant and a tax lawyer. So we moved out here. They were very young. They had me when they were teens. And my mother got disturbed that I was so much more successful than her. So she quit my career at 13 when it was at its peak. So I had to keep restarting my career as I got older. I had
Right.
to wait until I moved out of the house and try to.
Oh no. Are
Excuse
you
me, my
okay?
phone
There
fell
you
down.
go.
Yeah, my tripod is kind of funky. Sorry about that. That was
It's okay. All right.
hard on
I
the audio.
was afraid maybe you taking a tumble though. Safety first, okay?
Another ghost in my phone.
um, okay, so you're there. Did you have what age did you begin really wanting to pursue and start an acting career?
Well, I was doing theater when I was really young, like 5. And I started acting professionally when I think I was about 9. And I just loved it. I fell in love. My first role was a role called, it was a series called The Bill Dana Show. Um, and it was a role called The Brat. And I got to play really bratty. And at my house, my parents were really strict. If I talked back or did anything, it was like slap, hit. And so here I was totally free to be a brat. And actually, people had shin pads on, I could kick them. And I fell in love with acting because I could finally express anger that had been repressed for years, I think.
Venting is acting. Yes.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And I loved the audience. They did a live audience, 3 cameras in those days. And so it was like doing a play. It was really a joy.
Okay.
I really fell in acting. But I had always written journals. I guess the reason I say I was a writer first, because I started diaries when I was like 7, those little locked diaries. And I've been journaling ever since. And I teach therapeutic writing. So
Right. Yes, I mean, the writer has continued on. It sounds like it was something that you relied on during your career as an actress, and then into more creative fields like directing, and then now you teach, and you are a published author. So it's always been there, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's always been there. That's always been in the background. And I paint now too, which is fantastic. I had a big art show a couple of years right before the pandemic. So that was very nice.
I saw the gallery had some of your work up, and I saw that, and that was it was beautiful. It was very impressive.
Yeah, on Instagram, I'm Diane Sherry Case on Instagram, and you can see all my paintings, a lot of them. That's mainly what my Instagram is.
Okay. When you got into acting, besides being able to vent some frustration as a kid, what did you have any role models that you like? When you would see a movie or a play and like, that's the person, that's who I want to be like?
I think I liked Katharine Hepburn. And I also, the roles I wanted to play, I was really sad. I was too young when they did The Bad Seed. I wasn't acting yet. And that was a movie about a 12-year-old that kills people.
Right.
And is really manipulative and sneaky and cons people into thinking she's a real sweetheart. So I always liked complex roles, even as a child. I was really bummed I didn't get to play that. My first boyfriend was Johnny Provost, Boy and Lassie.
Yeah.
And he was in a movie called, what was that movie with Natalie Wood? It wasn't To Kill a Mockingbird. It was a Tennessee Williams play. I can't remember.
Listeners, help us out. I don't know. I'm not sure.
It was, I'm blanking on it. Anyway, he was in that movie, and there was a woman opposite him, but I think the director's daughter played the role, and a young girl opposite him. And I always wanted to do that. It was a scene on train tracks, and it was a Tennessee Williams play. What on earth was the name of that play? Somebody's got to come up with it. There's got to be a problem.
If our engineer is listening, drop that in there. Drop that in a comment. Okay, and then you got into acting, and based on the people that you saw, perhaps, or worked with, one-on-one, did your role models and the people that you wanted to emulate, did that change any? And if so, who?
I was just always very, I took my craft very seriously. So I played Julie Andrews' sister in a movie, and George Roy Hill was the director. And the assistant director went up to put fake tears in my eyes before a scene. And I remember I was about 13, and the director said, no, she's an actress. And I was like, yes. Yes. So I always took it very seriously as a craft. It was a saved my life. I always say in my therapeutic teaching, writing and stuff, that art saves lives, because I was kind of messed up as a teenager, and then I got back into acting, studying acting, and it really saved my butt. I always say, if you don't use your imagination, it will use you.
Yes, yes. And stories can save us.
Yeah.
Stories, everything from parables in the Bible to modern day movies, you can find inspiration in many places just through the efforts of creative folks, musicians and artists. So we've got pretty maids all in a row. I was really impressed to see the cast list for that film. Any anecdotes, any things before we get into the Superman part?
That's a funny story. That's a funny story because that was before Superman. I got it. It was my first job after I'd gone away to college, and I was walking on the lot on MGM, and they saw me. Was it MGM? Yeah. And Roger Vadim and Gene Roddenberry saw me walking, and I guess they wanted a redhead because they had a blonde, brunette, black woman, Asian, and they were trying to fill it out with, different pretty maids. And they took a liking to me, and they kept offering me more money. And I had gone away to college. It was my first year of college, so I kept turning it down. But then they offered me this tour of Europe to promote it, and that sounded awfully exciting to an 18-year-old.
Right.
And, but, I had in my contract a no nudity clause. And there's a book about Gene Roddenberry, his biography, that talks about me and how mad Vadim was that he thought I would come around and do my nude role, but I never did. So they kind of took my part away from me, and I ended up having a bit part because I didn't want to disrobe. I was scared my grandmother in Missouri would see it or something.
Well, yeah. I saw where Roddenberry was involved in, was it the scripting?
He was a producer.
Okay. And Jimmy Doohan from Star Trek was part of the cast too. I mean, that cast, that was a huge.
They had me interviewed for Star Trek too, and they had me in saying, we want somebody just like this girl, but a little older, androgynous looking. They thought I was androgynous looking. I don't know. So I guess some role in Star Trek got cast.
I don't see how they could think you were androgynous looking, but
short hair. I
don't know. Kristen Marie says the property is condemned, perhaps.
Oh, that's what it is. That's what it was.
It? Yes, Kristen, you got it.
You got it.
And yes, please submit questions for us. We will field them, because I could hog this whole interview, and I don't want to do that. So yes, pose any questions you have.
Glasses on.
Let's see. And T. Hawkins says, I love your art posts on Instagram. It was meet you and present you at the Superman celebration.
Oh, Oh,
thank you, T. Hawkins.
absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk.
Hawkins, is that the painter?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Hawkins, a painter?
Are you a painter, T. Hawkins? We'll see if they'll answer here.
Okay.
Let's get into Lana Lang. I gotta tell you, when I was a kid, Lois Lane was the big heartthrob of Superman. But for me, as a kid, Lana Lang, I could not see why Clark would not be smitten with Lana Lang. And when she was suspecting him of being Superboy, that he wouldn't just fess up and go, yes. Can we date now? That would be okay with me.
Just a word, Trevor Hawkins. I hate to go back for a second, but Trevor Hawkins is a wonderful painter. I have a painting of his. I was just
he goes, yes, yes, I am. Okay. So Lana Lang being in Superman, the movie, this part, can you tell us, how did this come up? Was it just you went and you auditioned, or was it something more personal, or how did it come up?
I didn't even audition. Lynn Stallmaster, he may have had me into the office to meet, but he had cast me in the Bing Crosby show. So he had cast me before in a whole bunch of things, I think. A lot of sitcoms and stuff. So, and Donner said he was up in Canada. He got a stack of pictures and he liked the mischievous look in my eye. And I guess I had a lot of experience by then. So,
well, on one of your interviews, you were talking about a Lana list, and it's grown. All the Lana actors, live. I'm just going to limit it to live action because there's a lot of voice actors, including Jane Waldo, did her voice at one point. But we got Bunny Henning from 1961 Superboy pilot that was unaired, not used. So Diane Sherry Case from Superman the movie, 1978. Stacey Hyduke from Superboy, 1988 to 1992 TV series. Annette O'Toole played the role in Superman 3 in 1983. Kristen Kruk on Smallville from 2001 to 2011. Emmanuel Shrieky, Superman and Lois Lane, would be the latest, I believe, live action. And you know some of these folks, don't you? You knew them before, and then I'm just curious which ones you've met since.
I was this first, I just want to say.
The first, yes.
First girlfriend is always the specialist.
That's right.
The one you don't forget. I met Stacy. We went to, I think it was Comic-Con Kansas City or something like that. We had a blast. We went out to barbecue. I think that's what I met her. Or maybe I met her at the Superman celebration in Metropolis. I can't remember, but we've run into each other a couple of times, and we've tried to stay friends, but we're just geographically far away. So
okay, and so Lana's loose. Lana, this is the whole Lana loose on the town. Two Lanas, no waiting to go out and just have fun together.
And I studied acting with her at Peggy Fury's when I was younger, before Superman, and never liked her, frankly. And they couldn't find me. I don't know if they would have cast me or interviewed me or what, but they couldn't find me. I had gone to New York to do off-Broadway theater. And with the guy that was the head of the drama department at Yale, and it was really brilliant things. But I kind of ditched a television and film career, didn't tell my agents where I was going, didn't tell, SAG. And that was in the days before cell phones, so nobody could get in touch with me. So I kind of did that.
So if you hadn't been off the radar in 1983, because I was looking, you and Annette O'Toole are very close to the same age, very close. So, I mean, that would have been ideal to have you come back.
It was a great role for me, and I would have done a great job.
I wondered if
I wrote
I wondered
Richard
if,
Lester when I found out about that it was, and he said, "Oh my God, we already cast it. We had been looking for you." But
um, yeah, that would have been, and I just wondered because you said you were off the radar and doing theater in the park and underground theater in New York, if you'd even have been interested at that point in your career of reprising the role.
yeah, I would have done it for sure.
Okay.
I loved
So,
acting in films, but what I was doing was very intellectually stimulating, and it really informed my writing. So it had a purpose in my life. So I have no regrets.
well,
Unless
I had read about the
so
Shakespeare
hard.
reading. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Unless I think too hard about it, I might find some regrets, but I don't think so.
Right, right. Reading about the Shakespeare that time in your life, one of the things that helped me through the pandemic was a Shakespeare reading group online. And I'm not Shakespearean, but it was fun to participate and to bring that to life. What roles did you play in Shakespeare?
Well, of course, what's her name? Ophelia.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
I can't remember. I did a lot of classics. I did some, I played Lady Macbeth once. And then like
Ooh,
at 10 years old, played Lady Macbeth. And Ed Harris came back and told her she was brilliant. I thought that was pretty cool.
neat, neat.
My kid's not in theater anymore. They're a poet, but they were very good. And but I did a lot of the classics like Eugene O'Neill and Chekhov, and I did Chekhov with Sean Penn. I did Eugene O'Neill. I did Noel Coward with Jeff Goldblum at the Loft Theater in Los Angeles. I did a lot of work studying and working with some really fine actors.
What was your, I know it's hard to pick maybe just one, but overall, what was your favorite theatric role? What did you really enjoy?
Boy, that's a good question.
And sometimes it's hard to limit to just
I
one.
did a movie a year ago. I hadn't worked for a long time, except for in things I directed myself. But I did a movie a year ago where I played this old lady that sits on a couch and watches TV all day. I had 7 changes of pajamas in the movie. But the TV station she's watching is infomercials, except she owns the station. So she's saying, "I want one of those freaking doodles," buying things from her own station, advertising. So it's kind of a common thing. I don't know if it'll come out or what's happening with it, but it's called Magpie Funeral was the working title.
Okay. Today, I mean, you are part of a classic motion picture as far as Superman the movie. Even today, with Disney and these huge budget Time Warner exercises and TV shows, it's still held up as a standard by which all of those are judged. And I just wondered, what makes you, I consider it a classic, and I think from what I've read in interviews, you have said, a classic film. People work their whole careers and never get into a classic film. What makes it classic for you, though, when you look at it now with this perspective of time?
It's perfect. Just a perfect. Christopher, are we having sound problems?
You were cutting out just a little.
Acts so well. And he made a perfect Superman. Margot was fantastic. It was funny. It was adventurous. It was beautiful. And all the special effects were real in camera. It was before, like, we did all CGI. So that's pretty fun to watch on a big screen. Just the old-fashioned special effects. And they did a great job. It was the highest. Twice I worked on the highest budgeted film to date. The movie Hawaii with Julie Andrews was the highest budgeted in those days. That was, I think it was $8 or $11 million. Sounds so small now. And then Superman was the highest budgeted film to date when I did that. But, Trevor asked a question about my art. Should I address that, or do you want to keep going?
Yes, please. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
He said that, you want to read the question?
Sure. Please discuss your artwork, your influences and motivations. It's playful and intelligent.
Well, I got into art. I wouldn't have believed it. Somebody gave me a mandala coloring book, and I had bought my kids when they were young. They had these Copic markers that are these professional anime markers. So I started coloring in the coloring book. And then after doing that for a few months, I said, what am I, nuts, coloring in lines? Let's get a blank piece of paper and see what happens. And all these weird creatures came out that I would have never dreamed up. So when my art, and then I started painting. Somebody told me that the Copic markers faded, so I started using India inks. Somebody in Germany, a German artist, told me that. And so I used these German Indian inks. And I forgot what I was going to say. Blank. But I know what I was thinking is I paint the same way I teach writing, and that is to try to bypass your intellect and just go straight to the source, which is either, I don't know if it's, you know, a God, the God, or if it's an inner source. But I think to try to think things through for me, or like visualize a painting, doesn't work. I just write, and I just write or draw, and whatever comes out, and then I'm surprised, and that makes it more fun. Because I think my subconscious is smarter than my conscious mind, and more creative. So I try to, like, you know, trick it and not be thoughtful about things. I just try to do it playfully. So that's my influence.
Coax it out.
What?
Just kind of coax it in.
Yeah.
You just coax it.
Just let it flow. And there's some amazing old books. There's one book that started me called The Codex of Serafino. It's a very peculiar book. It has a writing that's in an imaginary language, and then these bizarre drawings of like fruit people and different things. That inspired me too. And different surrealist painters and different you know, indigenous things. I actually used Mayan glyphs for a series I did.
Kristen says, I like to color mandalas in the Happy Color app. So she agrees with you.
Coloring mandalas was fun. I felt stupid after I did it for months and months and months.
Well, to have so many superhero movies and things today, one of the first things that the PR folks seem to like to do is to show someone that's been cast in one reading, you know, background material like this. When you got the role of Lana Lang, I was just curious if I can read any of the old comics, or if you decided to do it from the feeling of the relationship as you saw it on in the script.
Yeah, I did not read the comics. I was not true to the true Lana Lang. I winged it. I was true to a young girl who had a crush on a guy and was impressed by him.
Right. It comes off very well. How do you feel about the relationship on screen from this perspective?
I'm proud of it.
Today.
I'm proud of it. It's funny that, you know, it's not a large part. It's funny that it's been so, it's so iconic. But I'm very proud to be in that movie. Of course, it's in the National Archives. It's like the best of the Superman movies for sure. And it was wasn't it the first superhero movie?
There were others, but it was certainly a blockbuster status that it had.
Yeah.
Was unparalleled, I believe, at that time. You know, they had serials, and of course the classic television. You know, Batman the movie from 1966. There were some, but it just was not seen as a big moneymaker. And that changed. 1978, all bets were
changed.
I think. So, looking at it from today, there are some iterations of Lana Lang who discovered Clark's special abilities or secret identity, if there was a Superboy in the middle of those particular venues. I was curious if that had been part of the movie, if in the script that had been where Lana suspects that he's got powers or he's different, and she finds out right. How do you think that might have played out just as an actress in the role? How would you have done that?
I was actually going for that little look in the car where she goes, Clark. I was actually like, wait a minute, there's something special about this guy. This is not right. So I was actually doing that some. I think it came across to some people. It was very subtle, but that was in my mind. Hey, this guy's special. How'd you get here?
Well, if something had happened, if something had happened like in Superman 2, where he gets his arm in a fire and he's going to burn. If there was some like that they'd added because they liked the nuance of what you put in there, and they're like, let's build a scene on that. Do you think that as Lana would have approached it with fear, or would it have been an attraction that he's so different?
Totally attraction, an admiration, like wow.
Okay.
I mean,
well, at the time, I could see it going either way. An alien being. I'm not really sure about an alien being, and yet you had done such a nice job of making them a quieted kind of relationship between the two. I wondered how it would battle out in Lana's mind as you portrayed her.
I think love would preside. I think her love and crush on him would let her look at the positive.
All right. Let's see. Oh, I know. When you were filming, and I know that it's hard to tell sometimes. This is a personal question I've had for years, though. I know it's hard to tell where you were in Canada filming, and so you may have done some lot scenes elsewhere, and it all looks like the same place, but it's not. There was a contest, and two kids won, guys won, where they could clip out things in the comics and send it in. It was a Smallville scene, at least one of them. They are two football players. And I remember when I saw the movie first run, I was like, why are they staring at the camera? Everybody else is putting away their helmets, and they come along right and look at the camera, and then they run off. So these two fellows, and so they were on set somewhere. Was this something? Did you ever meet them? Did they ever present them as these are our contest winners? You're doing a cameo to be in the movie.
No, I never knew that. I mean, maybe I did, but I don't remember it. That's funny.
If you look back at the scene, you can see everybody is running, and they put their stuff on the bench, and the coaches told them to come in, and they're running on into the school, and two guys kind of near the end of the line, they did the same thing, but then they both turned to the camera. The only way they could have drawn more attention to themselves was to go and run off.
I'll look out for that. That's funny.
Okay.
Like when you find the mistake in the.
And it was very quick, but I knew about the contest, and I was kind of looking for it, and I'm like, it's got to be. You can look those things up more easily, and I'm like, yes, it's them. Along the same line, you in the small heavyweight veteran actors, Glenn Ford and Phyllis Thaxter, as Jonathan and Martha Kent. And I wondered, did you get to deal with them any? Did you get to meet them?
Yes.
With them any?
I remember. I think it was Glenn Ford, not Gene Hackman, that had to cancel his wedding. We were up there for a long time. and they were waiting for the sun to be in the perfect place. They were waiting for a sunny day, so they went up north to film some icy things, and we were just sitting up there for a month, and I got some jobs, and they wouldn't let me leave to do the jobs. So it was weird. We were just sitting up there bored, but
well, it's Smallville, so there's not a lot going on.
He had to change his date of his wedding. I can't remember if it was Gene Hackman or Glenn Ford had to change the date of their wedding because they were stuck up there too, waiting for the perfect light, which it was. And I had one take in my close-up because the light was going. It was magic hour, and we were losing the sun, so I had one take. That bummed me out. But it worked.
Yeah, you got to do that. And it worked. I mean, it's a very memorable part. And at the time, because I was a Lana Lang fan, I was like, isn't there more? So it worked for me. But you'd see in the subtlety in this attraction between them, and they capitalize very much. I think capitalizes on the foundation that you put down. So.
Yeah, I think that Smallville was a lot about that first scene too. I don't know. I never watched it, but somebody said it was kind of based on it.
So let's talk about some things after Superman the movie. If you could go back in time to immediately after that movie came out and tell young you from a perspective some advice, what would you say to that person after having been in this blockbuster motion picture for her future?
Stop taking drugs.
Solid advice. Okay.
I was kind of a mess at that point after that for a few years. So, but I was also working really hard in theater. So, but I think that I don't think drugs in your 20s is a good idea. In your late 20s. I was around a lot of rock and roll, and I was in kind of that kind of scene, so it was prevalent.
And sometimes nothing challenges us like success. And you definitely had a taste of success, and sometimes that can test you just as much as failure, I think. And Phoenix Sisters agrees. I think Hollywood can do that with a lot of young actors, unfortunately. Yes.
Yeah, I think what really got me in trouble was I had been acting and I hadn't been in school. And so my mother quit my career and got a divorce at the same time. And I hadn't been among peers. I'd been private tutored on the set for 4 or 5 years. So then to get into a peer group, smoking weed, I don't know, that just happened. And also, I was an outsider, and the rug had been pulled out from under me. That was the craft of acting was always really meaningful to me. I mean, I'm obviously an artist. I write, I paint, I do acting, and that's to me is survival. I have to survive. That's just who I am. So when that was pulled out from under me, that kind of upset me more than the success. That might have gotten me in the long run if I had too much of it, because as it was, I did stop doing everything and got totally sober when I was 29. Who knows, if I'd been famous, maybe I'd be dead. If I'd been more famous, because it does mess up a lot of people's heads. It's not, I wouldn't want to go to the grocery store. I mean, even I did a couple of Super Bowl commercials, and every time I go to the store, people would recognize me. That would drive me crazy. Occasionally it's okay, but it'd be horrible to go out like this all the time.
Yeah. To pop up that you didn't know were taken.
It's hard on young people to suddenly have a bunch of money and power, and it's.
Kelly says, "Congratulations on getting so. That's incredible, and it takes a lot of work." And yes.
Oh, thank you. Super for that.
So this leads to the next part of your career, I think, in that some of the work that you've done since helps kids with problems, and that's part that came from writing, I believe. Is that not correct? How did that all come about?
Well, I didn't hear that. It's cutting out. The
Sorry.
sound is a little
Okay. On the on your writing, as it developed, currently you use your writing and your teaching to help kids that are the same. So how did your writing, after you got into your 30s, how did your writing career develop?
You know, I got married to a musician who was on the road a lot. And so my last acting job was really upsetting because I couldn't breastfeed my kid. I was gone too long for the baby and I couldn't handle it. And he was out of town a lot. It was impossible for us both to be doing show business because you go out on location a lot and it's long hours. So I started writing. I had been writing, but I just started making that my main thing. And then I wrote things that had to be films that I just saw as films, and ended up getting a grant to make a film at AFI and ended up making a few films.
How did it transition? How was the transition getting behind the camera rather than being in front of it for those?
It was so smooth because the two things you need are a good script, and I'd been writing for decades. So I had a good script, and well, the three things you need: good script, acting chops. I could direct actors very well because I'd been doing that since I was 8, and a good cinematographer. And I had a fabulous cinematographer, Renee Villarrios. And so that's all. It was smooth and it was wonderful, and it brought together. I love it. I still want to make more films. It brings together everything I do: the visual, the writing, and the acting. So everything I've been trained for, I can use it all in making films. And I love editing. And editing is very much like editing writing, editing visuals. You just get rid of your babies. They say kill your babies, get rid of the precious things that you thought that you were the best. If they don't serve the whole, you get fierce at editing.
But save them.
Yeah.
They could come in handy some other time.
Save it. Yeah, save it for another story.
Yeah. And that brings us to short stories and novels. Which do you prefer? Which do you like to write the most?
I like the short story form a lot. I wrote short stories for a long, long time before I wrote a couple of novels. Now I'm helping. The therapeutic writing morphed into helping people with their memoirs. So I've helped a couple of people write their memoirs, several people. And that's really interesting because it's very important as you get older to tell your story. Pardon?
Right. Do you have a genre of short story that you have tried or you would like to try?
It's literary fiction. It's
literally.
Yeah. It's just plain literary fiction, kind of emotional, character-based.
Character study kind of things.
Yeah. Which makes sense, being an actor.
Right. The Geek of Steel says, there's a face I know. Diane will soon be inside the Royal Albert Hall in London, where the 1978 movie is screened along with a live orchestra.
Wow. Wonderful. Oh, that's amazing. Nice to know.
Yes, that is very cool. Okay, now when you said that you kind of had a sort of a pause, or you were tutored during your career, but then you went to college and you got some degrees. What was your college?
I got degrees when I was older, in my 40s and 50s. I got a master's in. I hadn't finished I'd stopped college when I was 19 to do film, and then I hadn't finished my BA. So I finished my BA. I got a master's in creative writing, and then I got a master's in psychology. And putting the two together made me do therapeutic writing.
Right. Let me get an excerpt here about your therapeutic writing. Now, this is from Write for Recovery, Exercise, Mind, and Spirit is where I found this. And it says, artistic expression has sustained Diane through many a loss and trauma. With immense gratitude for the gifts she's been given, she is elated to share her life of keys to awaken the creative spirit. And now this was a quote from Caleb King, who's a 25-year-old actor, painter, and writer when he wrote this. Diane is by far one of the most compassionate, intuitive, and fiercest women I have ever encountered. She was capable of understanding and comforting me when I was at life's worst. She can introduce you to your muses as well as provide different perspectives. She is immaculate, which can't imagine higher praise coming for somebody. Tell us about the work with kids with it.
Well, I worked with homeless youth. Caleb, I don't think he'd mind telling me he was homeless at the time that I met him, and he's now employed and housed and doing well. And I've kept up with him. I had a group of kids that were just really into it, and they were so talented. And we did zines. They put words to my art, and we had a gallery showing and sold them, and the kids got to keep the money. And we just did a lot. They did a lot of soul searching, and it was really nice because there's talent. Literary talent is kind of common. It's just a matter of getting in touch with it and having somebody help guide you, because everybody, a lot of people have talent. So it was really fun to see those kids blossom, and they're all housed. One of them has twins now. I don't know about that, but unfortunately, I can't be there now. It's shut down since the pandemic. They still feed the kids, but they don't have the arts programs. So I'm now starting to do it at senior citizen homes, so they can tell their stories. Because it's very important. I learned in gerontology that a very important part of developmental task of older people is to formulate their stories so they make sense of their lives.
So it speaks well for the entire focus you had. And it is applicable in so many stages of life for different end results.
Yes.
Bravo. Bravo. So you've even taught in prisons, haven't you?
I couldn't hear you at all.
I'm sorry. You've even taught in prisons, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah. And that was really something too. Oh my God. Stories those kids would tell. There was one kid who he was an orphan, and he was in Mexico, and he was taking care of his grandmother, and I don't know, he was 3 or 5, but his story was about how he had to sell gum and newspapers in traffic. And his focus was on being so short that he was scared he was going to get hit by a car. It was just just the most precious stories, and the way that the kids open up to it and are responsive. It's something I keep doing and volunteering to do because it's so fulfilling to see people respond to it. I mean, I do one-on-one, which, I get paid to do it too, but I also volunteer in organizations.
Right. So, and you talked about going to senior living centers for these sorts of things. What future thing are you planning, writing, or hoping to do, or all three of the above?
Oh, I want to do another art show. I need to get back to painting. I haven't been doing that. I'm finishing a memoir of a woman named Jane Book, who's a fashion designer, and she also used to have a rock band, and she was married to Rod Stewart's guitar player, and she just has a fascinating history in life. Mick Jagger sang happy birthday to her for her 16th birthday. And has a lot of fun stories. It's kind of Hollywood, but she's real smart and it's real fun to work with her. So I'm doing that. I have a film I want to do called Starving in Malibu from a short story I wrote that you can find in a magazine called The Scream Online. .com. It's called Starving in Malibu. It's a story I'm really proud of, and I'm going to make a film out of that. So those are my goals. I think the question, you know, you're cutting in and out when you ask questions, so I'm kind of waiting.
I'm sorry. No, you covered it perfectly.
Okay.
The other, to go back for just a moment to the book, what are some of the exercise? Just give us an example of the exercises in the Writing for Therapy. I've read over a few of them, and I'm like, these are awesome. So could you share just a sample of what one of those might be like an exercise?
They're all different. Some of them are like free association. Like I throw out a word, car, you write down the first car that comes to your mind and describe it. And then or a word or something in the house of a grandmother or other relative. Everybody has something like that. And it always starts like a long story. You know, she had the National Geographic, she had the candy with the, you know, she had the little Chotskis. Right. And it always starts, you know, so things like that kick people off. And then I have more little complex one, like pretend you could give anything from nature to someone. You could give them a sunset or bolt of lightning or a wave, and tell why you would choose that person to give it to you and what it feels like to give it. And that can be an exercise in like forgiveness, because you can do a person that you're angry at. And once you give them a gift and feel like why you're giving them, it sort of helps process that a little. It can also be a thing about giving yourself love, a gift you would give to yourself from, you know, I'd give myself the sunset because the colors are so beautiful, and I want to, you know, I write better than I talk. So things come out that surprise you. And that's what's fun about the exercises. I try to make them to where they do bypass the intellect. So you surprise yourself with what you write.
Okay, I'm going to sneak one of the things, and I'm going to turn it to you this time. You have a superpower. What superpower would you want, and how would you use it initially, and what might you fear about it?
What might I feel about it?
What superpower that you would like to have, how you would use it initially, and what might scare you about that power?
I'd like to read people's minds.
Oh no. Okay.
Just so I know what is going on, because I would be scared of that, because I don't know if I want to know. I would like somebody to kind of censor it. Go through and Kelly, I can read your mind. You're thinking about your next meal. I just know it. Are you thinking about ice cream, Kelly? I don't know.
So we are running short on time. I think we fielded all of our questions. So are there any things that we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about?
Oh, she's always thinking about ice cream. I got a bunch of chats, but I don't know if I push them if I'll disappear or not. So I'm scared to push what they are.
I've been looking over here at the posed questions, and I think, Kristen had said Glenn Ford got married in 1977, so that might have been the wedding that was on hold.
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Thank you, Kristen.
Oh, I just made a mistake in another interview and said it was Gene Hackman. I got to correct that.
Oh, okay. But is there anything else that you would like to discuss? A little bit.
We covered a lot of ground. You did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, my choice for shipping Clark is Lana Lang. So thank you for bringing that character to such vivid life. You say it wasn't a big part, but it was really an important part for a lot of us fans that were always part of Team Lana. You know, that's it. Come on. The first time that we got to actually see how that might look. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, I'm proud of it. Thank you. Thank you for appreciating it.
All right. Meet our Actors Fund goal, but if you have not given, you need to go and do that. Phoenix Sister says, such a delightful interview, and you are clearly a bright light in the world. Diane, thank you for joining us. That's from Kelly.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. So we want to thank our special guest, Diane Sherry Case, for being with us today, taking out time. Again, if you have not given to the Actors Fund, please do that. We have met our goal, but that's okay. We can surpass it. There is no ceiling. We can go higher. A big thank you to all. Yes, a great organization. And T. Hawkins says, good wishes to you and your art in the future.
Thank you, Trevor.
We want to give a big thank you to all of our podcasts that made this celebration possible. And Kelly has a clip that talks about them. So thank you to everybody that made this possible. Thank you, Diane, for being with us today and sharing your insights. All right.
This convention is also a fundraiser for the Actors Fund. The Actors Fund fosters stability and resiliency and provides a safety net for performing arts and entertainment professionals over their lifespan. You can support the Actors Fund by following the link below and donating. Every donation also enters you into our sweepstakes and gives you a chance to win these fantastic prizes.